G'day. I'm Danny Crouch from Generation XY or GenXY. Me being Gen X.
Me being Gen Y. I'm Malcolm Paynter. How are you?
So yeah, to rehash what we've been on about, we met 4 years ago thereabouts.
Yeah.
Playing pub trivia, got along well. We seem to be reasonably smart guys, or we just hang in a pub where there's really stupid people.
I'd say the latter one, mate. Yeah.
Because we tend to do all right in the trivia. And even though there's a big gap, I think you're half my age currently.
Exactly, I think.
Yeah.
24, you're 48.
Yeah, exactly. So we got along really well. We've had interesting conversations, and we thought, let's make a podcast about talking about different generations and how it works.
Yeah, well, I find it very interesting talking to Dan all the time about what it was like growing up in the 80s. You predominantly grew up in?
70s, 80s.
70s, well, yeah, 70s your early life, 80s more your teenager growing into a young adult.
Mm-hmm.
I find that stuff really, really interesting, and I find the questions that you asked me about how I live my life now quite interesting as well, and just thought you might find it quite interesting as well.
Yeah, whether you're a parent, grandparent, a millennial, is that the right
millennial
age group?
Millennial, yeah.
This stuff might find you interesting. If you're young, you might get some insight into some old people, and if you're an old person, you might get some insight into young people.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah. So,
but the good thing about it as well, sorry to cut you off, Dan, if you don't mind.
Used to it.
I'm working on it. Is that it's.
So hang on, are you working on trying to cut me off?
No, I'm the opposite, mate. Isn't that a given?
I don't know. We'll see.
Mate, well, the whole thought process behind this podcast is I think it's going to help a lot of people understand people from other generations as well.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Aussies anyway, or Australians.
Australians anyway, yeah, because obviously a lot of our stories are going to come from Australia or New Zealand culture because we both grew up in those countries.
We had a couple of segments last year. We've shifted from them. We're going to keep a couple of the original ones. So I'm a coach, trainer, business, that sort of stuff, and I use what we call strengths-based psychology, and we've both done our strengths. So my number one strength is what they call maximizer. So my little segment halfway in is called the Mad Maximizer. Reason being, maximizers are always looking for opportunities to make things excellent or great, but on the reverse side of that, it can often look like it's being overcritical and overanalyzing. So it's a segment where I'm finding things that might bug me, that they could be better. It's not about criticising, it's not about making shame or anything like that about a topic. It's about why don't they do it like this?
Working out how you can do it better.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah,
and then you've got your segment?
Positivity. So talking about the strengths-based psychology that Dan was talking about before, one of my top two is positivity. I always look at what's positive in life. It's just a natural thing for me. Always look at the, I'm a glass half full kind of guy.
Yeah.
Simple
and
as
I guess people could listen to what you're talking about too and think, oh, actually, I was seeing that as a negative, and you put a positive spin on it.
Put a positive spin on it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's I wouldn't say it's a challenge for me to see the negative, but I just don't naturally say that. It's just not who I am. I always look at what's good.
Yeah.
And focus on that.
And that's probably a contrast between maximizer and positivity. Is my maximizer might come across as if I'm being negative, because it looks like I'm looking for something that needs improving.
Whereas I might go, hey, look, you're exactly right, but however, this is good about this.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it works this way, and it's really good for that reason.
Yeah, so they're going to be two set segments we're going to have halfway or towards the end. But generally, we're going to have a topic each week, and we're going to talk about that generation gap.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we've thought we need some sort of baseline. So we thought, let's throw 5 questions in every week. They're going to be exactly the same, but they're going to be generic questions that relate to basically what happened in my generation and what happened in your generation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to start off, we're just going to flick through those questions and explain them. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory. In the middle,
go the other way.
Yeah. Why would any one of your generation put questions at the front?
Mate, the notebook was open on your table like that. So I didn't know that was your notebook. You didn't know that was your notebook.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to talk about an even lower generation, I've got an Airbnb business as well. We don't allow kids, and of course a family brought their kid along, and they wrote all over the furniture and the sheets and stuff like that. So
you haven't told me that story.
You just pick up a pad and write wherever you like. I wonder which generation that stems from.
Guilty.
First question, fairly straightforward, was we were looking around what was good about this topic. Yeah.
So just to give you a bit of background as well, so what we're hoping to achieve and what we're hoping to do here is talk about a certain topic every single week. So it might be rugby league and how it compared from the 80s to today, or cricket, or politics, or anything. Technology.
Yeah.
Anything of the sort, and obviously speak about and compare what it was like from your day to my day.
Yeah.
And especially how you were growing up around it as well.
Yeah. It's not going to be a competition.
Not going to be a competition.
We're just comparing.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole point about these questions is just to really have a baseline and determine what it was like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first two, what was the best thing about your era, and what was the worst or not so good thing about that era? So again, if it was rugby league, what was the best thing about the rugby league in the 80s?
Yeah.
And then you'll be saying what was the best thing about rugby league in the
today.
10s or
Yeah.
today.
The 10s and probably more the teens than the 20s, I'd say.
Yeah. So we've got best and worst. They were going to be the first two questions, but we're trying to flavour the podcast with this strengths-based psychology. And Gallup introduced this idea of when you're in your strength zone, you live in the basement, which is deep down dark and you're not doing well.
You're not using it well.
Or up high on the balcony where you're overseeing everyone and you're sharing the world and all this sort of stuff. So it's what's great and what's not so great. But from an Aussie ocarism sort of setup, when I'm coaching, I use a slightly different phrase. So we're going to look at what's in the penthouse, obviously, top floor, what's in the outhouse. So if you don't know what an outhouse is, back in the day, they used to have a dunny, and for those non-Australians, that's a toilet, but it used to be out the back in the shed. So
it's actually funny you said back in the day, because I actually don't know what an outhouse is. I've got no idea. Is it the wooden shack that was in the backyard that used to go...
And it was just a pit.
What, so you didn't have toilets in your house?
No. So you'd have a sewage pit in the ground, you'd dig up a hole, and then you'd get a box, or later, and Dalton and all that brought out the porcelain, you put that in, shit straight in it. You might pour some chemicals in to watch the odour, and it was far away from the house, so the odour didn't come through your house.
Yeah. So that's what the basement the outhouse.
Yeah,
I like outhouse. That. Yeah, I like that. The penthouse and the outhouse. Done.
Penthouse and the outhouse. Yeah. So that's the first two questions, and then we're going to delve a bit deeper and unpack. Looking at what's in the outhouse, how could it have been improved?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will be able to use a lot more experience because I've seen, example again, rugby league, saw it in the 70s, saw it in the 80s, saw it in the 90s, saw it in the 10s, and we're not. So I can see how they can be improved.
I think the thing where I'm really, really interested about doing this with you is because I really love history, as you know, and I love historical topics, I love pop culture, I love rugby league, I love basically anything to do with sport, history and whatnot. So I'd go out of my way to go back and look at old games and go back and look at what the political landscape, even though I wasn't there, I've never really got to have a true understanding of what it was like, but I really enjoy that and I like comparing it back to what it is today as well.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So obviously you're going to come from a great knowledge of experience because you actually lived through both, I guess, lifetimes or eras, but I can obviously also
Still
have
my one lifetime.
different generational lifetimes.
True.
But I can also try and have an opinion and try and explain why I think one thing's better or worse.
So I guess if you were just a one-man operation, you could sit here and tell stories about what your parents told you, what your grandparents told you, where what we're actually doing is I lived in that moment, you live in this moment, and we can compare.
But the thing is as well, I mean, you live in this moment as, if you don't mind me saying, a 48-year-old male, so you look at life completely differently than what a 24-year-old male would as well, especially with the technology landscape, with everything changing so fast as well. The old stereotypes about old people. Everything's too loud.
But a really interesting thing I like to think about around that perspective is these eyes are the same. They haven't changed in 48 years.
Yeah, but the knowledge behind them.
So what I think is behind on what I'm seeing, I still feel and think like a 16-year-old, like an 18-year-old, like a 25-year-old, like a 35-year-old at certain times.
Okay.
If that makes sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. I would disagree with that statement. I mean, I still feel like a 16-year-old. I'm 24 now. But
hang on, I didn't say necessarily feel. I did. If I did, I didn't mean that. I meant I'm seeing through the same eyes as was what I was at 16.
You're seeing through the same
25.
eyes, but you've got different knowledge, you've got different wisdom, you've got more experience and knowledge behind you. Do you know what I mean? So you're seeing through the same physical eyes, but you're seeing it from a different perspective.
Yeah, but you're also seeing it as a very similar perspective. Just because I'm 20 years older doesn't mean that I'm going to see something and find it necessarily different.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, alright.
Example. You see a rose when you're 16, if you think that's beautiful, chances are you're still going to see it as beautiful at 40.
It depends what
it may not be the
it
best
depends
example.
It depends on what experience you've had. I mean, if a relative has died and you laid roses on their cask, chances are you're probably not going to see it the same.
Very true, yeah.
Do you know that? And that's where I'm coming from.
I'm trying to come up with a good example and maybe...
Okay, so we've talked about the penthouse and the outhouse.
Yep.
Now, obviously, we've described what they actually mean. Now we're going to get into what could have been improved in terms of the outhouse. And I think you've got a name for that.
Yeah. How can you polish a turd?
Yeah. You can only polish a turd so much.
Yeah.
The famous saying is. But, what could have been better?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're just putting a slight spin on things. And then we're going to look at the sort of the financial things, what it cost in my day, what it cost in your day.
The bottom dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've sort of come up with a spin-off question, and I think you have no clue what I started with, which was how much was that doggy in the window? So anyone from my generation remembers that song. And as a very musical man, you've never heard of the song.
It sounds like a bit of a smart question. How much was a dog in the window?
They're talking about a pet in a pet shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a song.
Yeah. How
Never heard of
much
it.
is that doggy in the window?
And
woof, woof.
just for a bit of background, I'd like to consider myself quite a musical guy. I think you'll back me up here. I like sort of old music and new music and whatnot, but I've never heard that song as well.
Well, that's why we joined forces in Trugo. I needed someone who knew about music, and you needed someone who knew about everything else.
He says not knowing anything about geography.
I know where I live.
Yeah, you know where the pub is, and you know how to get home. That's your full extent of geography.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to just tone it down to how much was the dog.
Yeah, how much was the dog?
So you can look at it as how much was a dog in 1980 and how much is a dog now, or go a bit deeper and how much does it cost for dog food and how much does it cost for a kennel and
But something I find quite interesting as well is that it might have been, what'd you say, $5 for a rugby league ticket back in the day. It might, it's about 50, 40, well, $20 to $50 now.
Yep.
And it's not only about how much it costed, but how much it actually affected your bottom dollar, how much it affected your wallet. Like $5 back then might have been $60 now, or it might have been $20 now.
Yeah.
Do you know
At
what I mean?
15, can you just say, "Hey, Dad, can I have some money for
Exactly.
the footy?"
Hey, Dad, can I have
Where
$5?
now, your 10-year-old son saying, "Can I go to the footy?" and you got to fork out $50.
Exactly.
You might be, "Oh, come on, mate." There's 5 weeks pocket money for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So, what's the penthouse? What's the outhouse? How can you polish a turd? How much is the dog? And last but not least, we have what was the crack?
What was the crack?
What was the crack? So this is just a general question. What was going on in the time? What was
and
popular?
how did it influence?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did it affect others?
How did it affect?
Is that an Irish sort of
Irish
phrase?
saying, yeah. Well, what's a crack?
What's
a
a
crack?
crack?
What's a crack?
Yeah.
So it's really to do with popular culture and how it affected the times in the 80s and right now.
Sounds like good framework to me.
Oh,
Bit better than where we were.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%. I
We're a
agree.
bit off the cuff.
Mm.
So this is the plan, and we're going to introduce as many topics as like.
And the great thing about what we're doing, mate, is it's literally, for those who don't know, we were going to be called the Age Gap. We couldn't do that because of the other people out there using the same thing. So we started focusing more on mental health, and the good thing about it is we can actually compare what different topics, we can talk about anything, technology, sports, politics. So.
And what we forgot to mention, GenXY or Generation XY, boy chromosome, the male chromosome. So yeah, it could be we spend a couple of weeks talking rugby league. The season almost starts again in a couple of weeks. The trials have started, so we're going to chop and change and do all sorts of things. But by all means, if you've got any suggestions, if you want a discussion to talk about, it could be you got a teenager you might be having a few issues with, and you want a bit of suggestion. We can go through what we went through.
And the good thing about that is I've got younger brothers, and having problems with with my parents as well, and I went through it, and I've given them a bit of advice as well. So I've got a bit of a viewscape or a viewpoint to go from there as well.
And look, this is not any medical advice or financial advice or any sort of advice. This is just two blokes having a bit of a banter, having a couple of beers.
It's two blokes having a beer, having a chat, talking some shit, really.
Yeah. And I think this is probably going to be the first actual episode we put up on the podcast.
I think
the previous ones have been YouTube, so you can watch them. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel.
There's still GenXY.
Is
it Gen?
No, it's Choose Your Chapter. It's the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So I do have those details at the front of the book where they belong. Choose Your Chapter. So that's the name of my business.
Yep.
I've had the channel for a while. It just seemed easier rather than starting a whole new fresh run. Therefore, I've also set up an email address for guys like my age that don't use postage stamps anymore. We've got GenXY, very simple, GenXY, at chooseyourchapter.com.au. And then Up to the Youthful Kind has set up some socials.
Yes, so we've got Instagram and TikTok. I'm assuming everyone my age knows, actually no, everyone in my age knows what it is. I've recently got the old boy here into TikTok and he's addicted like me.
I wouldn't say addicted, I've tried to back off. We've got to be advocates of this stuff.
Still, don't get involved, I promise you. You can watch this on YouTube and you can listen to us on the podcast. For those who do have Instagram, who do have TikTok, it's Gen_XY_. And that is Gen_XY_.
Too many underscores. But that's what we've got to take, isn't it?
We got to work with what we got. We haven't spoken about the maximizer and the positivity yet.
Before we even go down the path of picking a topic, I think it's probably best that the next episode we go on a topic because we're pretty deep in. As good as technology is, I cannot stand passwords. It was great when you could have one. Now you've got to have 6 letters minimum, 8 letters minimum, 10 letters minimum. Now you've got to have an uppercase, now a lowercase, now a...
It's funny because I work with a couple of clients and you can tell the older ones from the younger ones because you know when you go for an email address and you put what you want in as an email address and it goes, sorry, that's not available. How about you try Gen_XY_00444555? It's like, oh my god, just choose another bloody email address. But they're so set in their ways, you know what I mean? It's hilarious. It's so funny. It's I do not know how people remember it. But people your age, they got a book, they write everything down in. My grandmother's got a little green book, Wi-Fi password, her house name, passwords for Facebook, everything else.
Can you imagine
mobile numbers?
There's possibly going to be a generation like there was 1,000 years ago that don't know what a pen is.
Oh, that's unbelievable. That is actually unbelievable. Oh, I don't think that will ever happen.
Really?
No. Well, you think they're going to bring out a little device that you can use?
Yeah, it's called a phone, and you type on it with your fingers and your thumbs.
I get what you're saying, and probably 100 years from now, the pen and the paper will become obsolete.
Do you know what a calculator is?
Yes, I know. I don't know what an abacus is. No, but it's funny. I was 8 years old and my grandmother bought... What are they called where you write the address, phone number and names of people in?
An address book.
She bought me an address book and I thought I was... I bought a CD Walkman. Oh no, I didn't buy it. I was 8. My parents bought me a CD Walkman. I thought I was a man. Walking around with my CD. I couldn't put it in my pocket, obviously. You've got to carry it around in your hand. And then there's you in the 80s with the afro carrying around a boombox.
Do you want to explain to someone what a CD is? Someone might be listening that doesn't know what a CD is. Do you know what it stands for?
I do know this. I do know this. We might have to cut a bit out here because it's not something I want to remember, but it's a CD-ROM. Oh, CD-ROM. I just cellular disc. No, it's not.
You got one word right.
Yeah, I got the disc word.
I'm not going to tell you which one.
It's the disc one. It's not cellular because that's phone. Compact.
Yes, very good.
Compact disc.
Very good.
VHS. I couldn't tell you what that stands for.
Video home system, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I was going to go high definition system or something.
Yeah.
Something like those lines.
So there's no D in VHS.
Well, high definition. It could be a hyphenated word.
Okay. Could be.
Yeah. No.
Anyway, we're going to move into our last 2 segments.
Yes.
The best 2 segments. So, Maximizer. Mad Maximizer.
So do you want to explain, obviously at the start of the podcast, strengths-based psychology?
Yeah, so I look at things and I just go, why wouldn't you do this? Because it could make this so much better.
So much more efficient.
My opinion. Not a fact. It's just my personal opinion. So I do a bit of life coaching and relationship coaching and stuff like that. And I've been known to flick over to a few of these reality shows. And just curiously, I love studying humans and how they interact. And obviously, the way the world is today, everyone's plastered to a screen. So,
all plastered in general.
I don't want to say a lot of my fears, but I'm concerned about how people are portrayed on TV and then how our kids are growing up thinking this is the norm.
Yeah.
And then there's a show, I'm sure plenty of people around the world have heard it, Married at First Sight.
Maths,
yeah. And I flicked through it and it was the Aussie version. And something was going on in the very beginning. A husband and wife, they sort of split, they weren't getting along, blah, blah, blah. And then it moves to some scenario where all of the couples meet up for the first time after they've been married, right? Apparently this is 3 weeks later. Right? Now, there are supposedly 3 professionals on the show.
Professional psychologists.
I don't want to use that word because I know there are strict criteria to what allows you to be a psychologist.
To have your license, yeah.
And to have that license, you need to be able to conduct experiments which are ethical. And this is where the maximizer comes in. I'm questioning whether this is ethical. Okay, so 3 weeks later, these 3 experts are sitting on the couch, and whether or not this is just produced or edited badly, they go, "Oh, this is going to be very interesting. We haven't seen this couple for 3 weeks, right?" So we've got a show where they're putting people in a situation where they've just been married. There's all this turmoil, and the way these producers put it together, they let the wife come in, what seems like on the show a considerable amount of time, maybe an hour, it could be 3 hours, and they're all drinking and talking and chatting. And the way it's produced, and I'm trying to be very respectful of the way TV shows are made and edited to make the audience go, "Wow, this is awesome," or "This is crap," or whatever.
It's all fake.
But she basically sits there and rubbishes this guy and throws him under the bus and tells they met once, so basically strangers that are going through the experience together, and they're sitting there going, "Oh, that's awkward. I don't know if she should be saying that," and all this.
Hang on, let me get this straight. So, hang on, sorry. So I don't watch maths. I don't watch reality TV. So when you say there's a 3-week break between they got married and...
That's what it says. We haven't seen it.
I
don't know. I don't
Are they still
really
together?
watch it. Yeah, well,
they've been living together for 3 weeks, and then
they're meant to be in the experiment until the end.
Right. Okay. Right.
Sometimes they get the shits with each other and they go split for a couple of weeks and then come back to the experiment.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But the experts haven't seen this couple for 3 weeks. So what we saw was this feud when they were staying together. Maybe it was a honeymoon or something like that. And then they had an argument, and he went, "I can't deal with this," and left. Right. So 3 weeks apparently goes past because the experts say it's been 3 weeks since we've seen what happened.
Reality TV.
She comes in, throws him under the bus. It was quite offensive what was being said.
Right.
And then of course they cut away to the guy sitting in the car going, "I can't wait to see her again. I hope we can clear the air."
Hang on. It's been on TV, so you can say it. It's not like you're trying to. It's not like you're hiding a personal. What was said? What did she say that rubbished the bloke?
Again, I can't.
Well, I just called him an arrogant.
No, it was little things like, "Oh, come on, princess, harden up."
Okay.
But in the context, it was quite offensive. And this guy's, it comes across as quite emotional and a vulnerable sort of person. And he's in an element where he's just been married and he's trying to open his heart.
Yeah, and he's just met her for the first time.
And by no means am I taking sides here. I want to get to my story so if I can finish.
Sorry.
And then ask some questions. So he's sort of saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see her and try and clear the air," or something like this. And I hope what happened stays private and doesn't go out anywhere until we get the opportunity to talk. So meanwhile, she's telling everyone what happened. He's going, "I hope nothing gets said." These 3 experts go, "Oh my God, this is not going to go well." And I'm just sitting there, and this is the Mad Maximizer context. Why weren't those experts sitting with that couple 3 weeks earlier, talking him through, "Hey, this is how we can make this relationship better," rather than sitting back and letting it go on? It's not just Maximizer looking for ways to make it better. I'm also curious, and this could be a topic for another day, is your generation that hungry to see this, turmoil or drama? Or is it possible that one of these shows could put together an element where they actually help people through this process?
Well, that's a good point, mate, because when you bring up my generation, it's more the fact that, my generation is so... And I'm the same. I'm not just saying my generation. It's so short attention span. You got apps like I don't know if you remember Vine. It was kind of like TikTok. It was like 6-second videos, right? So you just scroll through Vine like you scroll through TikTok, and it was only 6-second videos. And it's like, if you're not caught, well, TikTok is a little bit longer than Vine, but if you're not caught, if your attention isn't caught in the first 3 or 4 seconds, then you just scroll on. So it's the same sort of thing. So these
sales and marketing.
Exactly, 100%. But the whole point about the podcast is to talk about what's good, what's bad, how could it be improved, right? So I don't know if they had reality TV show back in your day.
No,
none.
I think Big Brother might have been the first one, in 2000 or something.
I remember watching that as a kid and I loved it.
I don't think I've ever watched an episode.
I can't stand reality TV these days because it is so scripted, and you sit there and you just go, "Oh my God, like that would never happen in the real life." She would never react that way. That's an overreaction or whatever it could be. It just does not interest me. But I know there are certain elements that I do enjoy because it's creating drama. It's not real. It's fake. It's all scripted. But yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think we've debated over this plenty of times.
Yeah,
there is, yes, definitely there is scripting in there, but there are still elements of truth, and personalities come out, and that's what fascinates me with some of these shows.
The personality,
and it's almost, it's not that I'm attracted to the lying, I'm attracted to what they think they are doing is honest and truthful, where in actual fact it looks like a blatant lie.
Agreed, and the thing is as well. I mean, you get a lot of these people that go on these reality TV shows, mate, purely for the clout.
Oh, yeah,
purely for the clout.
I think that's where it's been lost.
100%, 250%.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. So that's your Mad Maximizer
done. And please, if you got any feedback on that one, I'd love to hear. Would you be interested in watching a show where they actually try to help people,
as opposed to just putting them in situations where conflict's going to arise?
Yeah. Just for the drama.
I think that would take off, man. I really do. Everyone loves a Cinderella story.
Ending.
Cinderella story.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't always have to be a Greek tragedy. It can always be.
Do you want to compare yourselves to an ideal couple, or do you want to listen to a couple going through the shit that every couple goes through? Every couple on this planet goes through the same shit, the same arguments, all this sort of stuff. It's how we deal with it, is how we get through it.
And
so why not put professionals on TV showing us how to deal with it, rather than showing
focusing
how
on
they deal on it themselves.
And that's the whole point about Mad Maximizer. How can you improve it? And as I said, I think where reality TV went wrong, just very quickly, I want to touch on this, is that there are, as you said, only so many scenarios that real people go through. And everyone goes through it. And then it gets boring. After 3 or 4 seasons, they have to start spicing things up to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Cool.
Anyway, so Mad Maximizer.
Done.
Now, I said before at the start of the podcast, I'm really high on positivity. So I wouldn't say, as I said, I wouldn't say it's a challenge that I see things in a negative
What's the name of your category, Mal?
Don't backchat me. Mal knows boats. So I really struggle to see the dark or the negative in life, which I don't see that as a problem. I'm always all about the positivity, finding what's great, finding what works well. Even in a bad situation, I always try and focus on the positives, which I think is a pretty good way to sum it up.
Sounds good.
So my segment, Mal Knows Boats, which is a funny... Actually, I'll let you tell a story because this is your generation.
Okay, so I'm telling the story about your category. Sounds good to me.
Well, I didn't know where it came from, but mate, do yourself a favour. Once he's told the story, go and look up the YouTube.
Yeah.
The YouTube clip. It's brilliant.
So there's a bar. I don't think we ever drank there together. But it's called the Helm Bar.
No,
anyone that knows me knows that I spent plenty of time at the Helm because I used to log in on Facebook all the time because you used to get free drinks every time you did it. So
did you?
Yeah, absolutely. But it closed down a couple of years ago, just prior to COVID.
It was
really smart business move. The owners put up the rent, and the people in there said, "No, we're leaving." 2 months later, COVID came, and everything shut down for 9 months. So
put up that rent by something like 20 or 25% as well. So it wasn't.
I think it was more. It was closer to double from what I heard. Wow, ridiculous. But anyway, when it all closed down, there was a dinghy sitting on the top of the stairs. After trivia, we've had a couple of drinks. We'd walk past this place.
I think a couple on top of that as well. Yeah,
we'd jump inside the dinghy and take a couple of selfies and stuff like that.
Actually, do you know what? Actually, for the podcast, we'll splice it in those pictures.
Can do.
Yeah.
I think we've still got a couple.
It'll be pretty.
So there was. It just became, because of trivia and what we know, what we don't know, and all that sort of stuff. I just started saying, well, I know boats. And Mal had never heard that phrase before. And I said, oh yeah, there's this TV ad that a few of the ex-rugby league players used to go on. I think it was for King G or King something or other.
It was King. I'd never heard of the brand before, but as soon as you heard it, you went, oh, I think it was King G or something.
Something like that.
Was it a cigarette brand?
No, clothing. Clothing store. Yeah,
because you had the other one doing Lowe's. That's Lowe's.
Yeah.
And then you had the other one doing the other clothing brand.
Yeah.
And they were teammates.
Yeah. So there was a phrase coming in there, and then it became a bit of a joke that one of us knows boats, and then we get upgraded or downgraded. So sometimes you're in dinghy, sometimes you're in catamarans, sometimes you're sailing a ferry, and then I think Mal's at canoes, or you might even be back at boogie boards these days.
Just back at floaties, mate. I know floaties. Anyway, so my segment's all about the positive things in life, whether it be a positive trivia fact or something I find really interesting that I think the masses will find interesting, or even something that's at the moment a lot of bad things going on in the world, even something that I find a reaction, that some person or people are having to that certain bad thing as well. That I can just share, maybe brighten someone's day, hopefully anyway.
So what do you got for us?
Today, well, everyone knows what's going on in Ukraine at the moment. I think it was 2 or 3 days ago Russia invaded. Now, the response that Ukraine has had to this invasion has been absolutely phenomenal. It's been absolutely... It's tremendous, really. Sorry to use a Donald Trump word there. It's been absolutely tremendous, but...
I didn't know he claimed fame to that phrase.
Every single word
really?
is tremendous. Yeah.
Okay.
Mate, I've seen pictures, I've seen things on... Granted, it is social media, which is, as we know, it's all... A lot of it's staged and whatnot, but people have been putting up images of buildings being draped in blue and yellow, which is the Ukrainian national flag. I don't want to put a negative spin on this, but people are actively standing up and trying to fight for their country. Really, really putting the pressure back on Vladimir Putin and the Russian invasion, which has been just absolutely phenomenal. It's to invade a democratic state the way that Russia has, which I don't think has happened actually since World War II, I believe. The fight that they have and the patriotism they have for their country has been phenomenal.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So you're supporting the Ukrainian civilians?
I'm supporting the people who should not be caught up in the mess.
Yeah.
I'm not taking Russia's side, I'm not taking Ukraine's side. Obviously, I am taking the Ukraine side. Look, if Russia feels a little bit alienated, fair enough. But there's absolutely no reason why you should put millions and millions of people in Europe's biggest country at risk and threaten their life with an invasion.
That's a fact too. You told me today. I didn't know Ukraine was the biggest country in
It depends if you count Russia. But Russia spans Europe and Asia. I'm fairly certain. It's the second biggest country in Europe. I've heard official statistics, so it's the biggest country. Yeah.
It'd be up there with the last one in the alphabet too, wouldn't it?
What?
Ukraine, starting with U. It'd be up there with close to the end of the alphabet.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Well done.
I'm just trying to have my input. How to make your segment better.
Anyway, so that's kind of the spin that we're trying to put on the podcast.
Sounds good.
I think it's a really, really interesting topic. I find your life fascinating. You find the way that I look at life fascinating as well. So that's what we're going to be at. And the good thing
I'm the sarcastic one in this group.
The what? Sorry.
Sarcastic.
I just got the joke.
So maybe one day down the track we might look at interviewing people from different generations and getting their spin on it. Possibly parents, possibly kids and stuff like that, and talking about generations above and below. That's pretty much a wrap. Mal, do you want to go through those, how to contact us? If you've got any feedback or questions or suggestions on how we can make it better.
So that email address is genxy@chooseyourchapter.com.au. Now, I'm assuming the older boys or the older women as well, you'd probably be familiar with YouTube, which is also Choose Your Chapter. So hit it in the search bar.
YouTube channel.
Yep.
Please subscribe.
Like and subscribe. I hate that. Please like and subscribe. No. Search bar, Choose Your Chapter, it'll come up. You'll find us. Have a bit of a scroll through as well. There's a few good videos in his channel as well.
If you want to know anything about strengths, go on to the Choose Your Chapter website.
Absolutely. Now, for the younger guys, Instagram, TikTok, Gen_XY_. That's Gen_XY_. Pretty straightforward. Put it in the search bar, you find us.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably put them in the notes of the podcast area. You can do all that sort of stuff.
And all the social media things we put up, we'll just put our tags as well.
Exactly.
Cool.
All good. That's us. I'm Danny Crouch from Gen X.
And I'm Malcolm Paynter from Gen Y.
We are GenXY. Bye for now.
It's better than Lego!